So our discussion question this morning is, what is your favorite Christmas activity? Are you the baker? Are you the Christmas shopper? Are you the one who ends up doing all the outdoor lights? Like what's your favorite part? What's your favorite Christmas activity? All right. So we'll go ahead and bring it back in. So we're doing Advent this week, and this week it's joy. So Advent is the acknowledgement that we live in a broken world, but it's also a reminder of the hope, love, joy, and peace that Christ gives us despite the fact that we live in a broken world. It's a time to celebrate Christ's first coming and also to anticipate his second coming. So this week we're looking at joy. Now it can be really easy to confuse happiness with joy. I tend to do it a lot. I say that I'm joyful about something, but not really. So joy versus happiness. Happiness is easy to understand. It's what we see everywhere, on commercials, movies, TV, magazines. I mean, you turn on a TV commercial and somebody's happy with, I don't know, the latest toy that came out or the lasted smartphone. So this clicker makes me very happy. So this is actually the clicker that my dad has had since our first pastorate. And I used to play with this when I was little. I was the one who would test out the clicker to make sure it was working every Sunday morning. And just the sight of this brings up all those happy memories, and it's a very happy thing for me. Baking makes me happy. I love being in the kitchen. I love it when I have a recipe that goes really well that I wasn't expecting it to. I love it when I get to share what I make with other people. And Christmas makes me happy. I mean, looking at all the pretty lights and the tree and all that, it's so fun. But all of these things are fleeting. They're external. They're based on circumstances. So say this clicker doesn't work. That's very frustrating, and I'm not happy with it anymore. Or say a recipe that I've done 1,000 times all of a sudden decides to flop. That doesn't make me happy. That kind of takes the happiness out of baking. Or say you're late for a concert and you can't find parking anywhere for a Christmas concert. That's really frustrating, and it's really, really hard to be happy in those times. But joy is deeper than happiness. Joy is above our circumstances. Joy comes from within. It comes from resting in our relationship with God. So in our reading this week, Jesus talked with his disciples about joy. So if you have your Bible, you can turn with me to John chapter 17, and we're starting with verse 13. Now I am coming to you. I told them many things while I was with them in this world, so they would be filled with my joy. I have given them your word, and the world hates them because they do not belong to the world, just as I do not belong to the world. I'm not asking you to take them out of the world, but to keep them safe from the evil one. They do not belong to this world any more than I do. Make them holy by your truth. Teach them your word, which is truth. Just as you sent me into the world, I'm sending them into the world. And I give myself as a holy sacrifice for them, so they can be made holy by your truth. I am praying not only for these disciples, but also for all who will ever believe in me through their message. I pray that they will all be one, just as you and I are one. As you are in me, Father, and I am in you. And may they be in us, so that the world will believe you sent me. I have given them the glory you gave me, so they may be one as we are one. I am in them, and you are in me. May they experience such perfect unity that the world will know that you sent me, and that you loved them as much as you love me. Father, I want these whom you have given me to be with me where I am. Then they can see all the glory you gave me, because you loved me even before the world began. O righteous Father, the world doesn't know you, but I do, and these disciples know you sent me. I have revealed you to them, and I will continue to do so. Then your love for me will be in them, and I will be in them. So this is a prayer that Jesus is praying right before he is taken off with the Romans to eventually end up on the cross. So Jesus is asking God to prepare his disciples. Jesus knew that the world was broken, and Jesus is asking God to lead and protect them. Now, the disciples were the people that Jesus spent the most time with. They were like his brothers. They walked in a very, very close relationship. And there's a lot of emotions involved here as he's preparing to say goodbye to them and be apart from them for a time. But it's interesting how Jesus is asking God to lead and protect them, but not to take them out of this world. That's because they had a mission here on this earth that God knew about and Jesus knew about. And that mission that God gave them, despite all of the rough circumstances of our broken world, God used that to spread Christianity to where we are today. And that's a very beautiful thing. So in his prayer, Jesus is really sharing his heart for us. He's sharing his desire for us to live in unity. And he's sharing his desire for us to live in relationship with him. He desires for us to live in his joy. True joy comes from a relationship with Christ, not from our broken, fallen world. That's happiness. But joy is a gift from God. It's a gift from God to help us cope with the world that we live in, as broken and messed up as it is. Joy is found in those little moments. It's not always something that we feel, but it's something that's always available to us through our relationship with Jesus Christ. Can happiness turn into joy? Yeah, it can. So this clicker, it makes me very happy, especially when it works. But I have joy because this clicker, I grew up with this thing. Like, this is so special. And the fact that this has been with me through every step, every move that we've made, and the fact that I got to play with this when I was little, and now I'm using it when I'm preaching my sermon, that brings me joy. It's showing me that God is working in my life and moving. It's my little reminder of how God is working in my life. Yeah. So baking brings me joy. Not because of my own feelings. Like I said, there are a lot of those days where the recipe that I've been working on for forever, just all of a sudden, I don't know, the cookies burn or the cake sinks or something. And it makes me very happy when others enjoy what I make, but if somebody doesn't like it, that's okay. Because God has used baking to connect to me in a relational way and to teach me. When I first moved here, I was randomly placed in a culinary class. I enjoyed being in the kitchen, but I wouldn't say it was one of my strong suits by any means. I was the one who would make frosting with flour and honey when we ran out of powdered sugar. Don't try it, it's nasty. But when I moved here, I was randomly placed in this class. And when I moved here, it was a really hard time for me because I was transitioning from the place that I grew up in. I was transitioning from kind of the identity I had formed for myself in Davenport in Iowa. And all of a sudden, I'm in a brand new place. I don't have my friends anymore. I don't have my shtick, my thing, right? But through this class, I have learned so much. I've learned patience, which is I'm still working on that one. But I've started to learn patience. I've learned how to work with people and with recipes that frustrate me. I've learned how to work despite my circumstances to create joy and happiness. And Christmas can also bring joy. Not because of the gifts we exchange, not because of the concerts we attend or the lights that we put up, but because of the gift that God gave us, his only Son. Through Jesus, we receive the gift of God's presence. Now, that's a gift that's always in us, in all of our circumstances, as well as despite all of our circumstances. Now, here's some food for thought. Joy is like a secret ingredient. The food still tastes good without it, but having that something else makes it really special. It is fully possible to live a life of happiness apart from God. But it is impossible to live a life of joy without a relationship with God. This is because joy comes from the ability to rest in a relationship with God and trust him to work on our behalf despite what our broken world throws at us. So today, I had a special experience where I was not feeling very joyful this morning. See, I had worked super hard all night last night. I was up until, 2 a.m. making the best cookies I have ever made in my life. All right? And I was going to serve them all to you guys. I had just developed this recipe. I'd been perfecting it for weeks just for this sermon. And then my sister got COVID. So I can't give you those cookies today. But those cookies brought me happiness this morning when thinking about giving them to you guys. But I have the joy of knowing that God can still use all of that. He still used that in my heart this morning to give me joy. And so that was kind of my God moment this week. So today, I want you to think about that God moment, that little connection with God that you've had this week, last week, I don't know, sometime that really brought you joy. That moment where you knew God was working in your life. You knew that God was with you. And that brought you joy. And I encourage you to take the piece of paper on your table and flip it over. You can tear it in half if you don't have enough at your table. And then just write down that moment, that God connection that brought you joy. And then this week, as you're going about your week, when you're feeling really frustrated and you're really struggling to find joy, I encourage you to take out that little piece of paper and read it and remember the joy that God has given you, despite your circumstances. Yeah. All right. So if we could have the worship team come up, we're going to end with Joy to the World. And I encourage all of you to stand up and sing as loud as you can, because it's a fun song.